you doing? The world of My Little Pony features many unique and interesting locations, and I thought for a video, it'd be a fun idea to rank these locations by how livable they are, which in this case means by how much I'd want to live there, or if I'd even want to live there in the first place. Of course, this isn't a particularly original idea, but I haven't seen it done about My Little Pony, so yeah, why not fill the void and do it myself? While ranking these locations, I'm going to assess them on 3 different factors. 1. Aesthetics and overall feeling, a very subjective factor obviously, and if it's not already obvious, this video will have subjective opinions. 2. Safety, since many locations in My Little Pony encounter dangers and disasters on the weekly, but not just attacks, also other safety factors. And 3. Amenities, so like the actual logistics of the place, kinda, so if it has shops and services, since you know, it could be the safest, nicest looking place in Equestria but have nowhere to shop. Like sure, you live in paradise, but you'll also starve. Each of these will be given a score from 1 to 6, and then the average of these 3 numbers will be the rank that it gets put in. From the 6 ranks, S, A, B, C, D, F. In this video, I'm just going to be assessing main locations. That is, locations that are featured multiple times in the show with plenty of screen time, although there isn't actually a real criteria for what makes main locations in my eyes. I'll just list all the locations I'm putting in this video right here. 1. Ponyville. 2. Canterlot. 3. Manhattan. 4. The Crystal Empire. 5. Appaloosa. 6. Cloudsdale. 7. The Everfree Forest. 8. Last Pegasus. And 9. Rainbow Falls. So yeah, there isn't really any criteria for these locations, they're just the ones I picked for this video, and now that I've established everything, let's actually get onto the ranking. Starting off with the classic Ponyville. So Ponyville, of course being the main location of the show, is the one everyone's most familiar with. But let's ignore the bias for a second and try and look objectively at Ponyville. Is it a good place to live? Well, let's start off with the first of our factors, aesthetics and feeling. Ponyville has a very nice small town aesthetic. I think everyone could agree. The architecture, surroundings, and features give off a, at least to me, homely and relaxing feeling. Like it'd be a nice place to be, again, just from aesthetics. With unique and interesting buildings like Sweet Appaloosa that add interesting flair to the architecture and surroundings, which could get a bit repetitive without them, Ponyville feels like a somewhat diverse location despite its small town aesthetic. So, I'm going to give Ponyville an overall aesthetics and feeling score of 4 out of 6, since it looks and feels nice, but just a bit too simple and still somewhat repetitive. Now for safety, Ponyville is quite a doozy. Obviously being the home of the main 6, it encounters more danger and peril than anywhere else in Equestria, even Canterlot. By the way, I'm assuming all the locations are in the state that they are during the show's period, so yeah, the main 6 would be in Ponyville at this time. With Ponyville encountering disasters or villain rampages like every week, it's going to have a low score for this one. Honestly, gotta be a 2 out of 6, since literally there is nowhere else that gets hit with that much. However, it's not all the way at 1 since Ponyville does have a descent system of the main 6, which counteracts some of the danger. But still, although the show never acknowledges it, the risk of collateral damage in any of these disasters is very high. And finally, the amenities, which Ponyville has an abundance of. Multiple food shops, a spa, transport links, a farm, a boutique, a school, a flower shop, a library, and more. Everything a pony would need. It's right there in the town, no need to travel to buy food or anything, but on the off chance you need to travel, you can easily commute to other locations, Canterlot just being 1 station away. Ponyville is going to get an amenities rating of 5 out of 6. With scores of 4 out of 6, 2 out of 6, and 5 out of 6, the average of those 3 is 3.6, which will round up to 4, putting Ponyville in the B tier. But I feel like, since Ponyville is such a classic and central location, just this once, we'll bump it up to A. So Ponyville's final place is in the A tier. Moving on, we have Canterlot, the capital of Equestria. Starting off with aesthetics and feeling, personally I think Canterlot's aesthetic is cool, and definitely somewhere I'd want to visit, but not really live forever. The architecture is really beautiful, but something about it just feels kinda bad for me. Maybe it's the slightly overwhelming white usage on the buildings, and yeah, although the architecture is beautiful, I'm just not sure it's the kind of place I'd want to live. I feel the same way about castles in real life. Like, they look nice and are fun to visit, but there are places I'd much rather live if I had the choice. With all that into account, Canterlot's going to get a 3 out of 6 for me in terms of aesthetics and feeling. For safety, Canterlot's definitely safer than Ponyville, despite being the capital. Many villains have the motivation to take over the entirety of Equestria, but always start in Ponyville. Or at least not in Canterlot. Even when they do go to Canterlot, they get met with the Royal Guard, princesses, and the main 6 once they get there. However, Canterlot is in a slightly perilous location. I mean, at some point, a pony has to have fallen off here, right? Look, however unlikely you think that may be, it's possible. Overall, Canterlot's going to get a score of 4 out of 6 for safety. Now for amenities. Canterlot has plenty of upper class boutiques and such, including, of course, Rarity's Canterlot Carousel. They also have an abundance of food places since we know that a restaurant row exists. Canterlot also has a train station of course, as well as a royal palace, bringing some exciting and extra special flair to the place. However, I still don't feel like Canterlot would have as good a selection of places as say Ponyville. Places it has are of course top quality, but I'd imagine it have a much narrower selection for that kind of place, and obviously it's going to be very expensive. I'd say Canterlot is around a 4 out of 6 for amenities. What it has is good, but it's very expensive and doesn't have that diverse of options. Canterlot's average is also 3.6 rounded to 4, except this time I'm going to leave it in the B tier. Ponyville again was a unique case. Next, we've got Manhattan, Equestria's massive, bustling, non-stop city. Starting with aesthetics and feeling, Manhattan looks amazing from a distance. Big skyscrapers, bright lights, ponies rushing everywhere, definitely has the wow factor, but at the same time, it feels incredibly overwhelming. There's no calm or space or peace, it's all noise and movement. Honestly, I think Manhattan is perfect for a weekend trip, but living there long term, it's how I feel about cities. They're nice, but I don't know if I really want to live in them forever. So aesthetics and feeling get a 3 out of 6. Cool, but stressful. For safety, surprisingly, Manhattan is fine. Despite being huge and full of potential chaos, it barely ever gets targeted. The worst thing that's likely to happen is getting yelled at by a taxi driver or trampled during rush hour, which is bad, but not as awful as other places, so safety sits at 4 out of 6. Amenities though, Manhattan is stacked. This place has everything. Theatres, cafes, shops, hotels, parks, transport links, and basically every service you could think of. Honestly, if we're just talking convenience, Manhattan is unbeatable. The only downside is everything is ridiculously expensive and probably booked out for weeks, but still, amenities are a 6 out of 6. Averaged out, that lands Manhattan in the B tier. Next is the Crystal Empire. The land where everything is made of crystal whether it needs to be or not. Aesthetics and feeling wise, it's extremely pretty. The colours, the shine, the architecture, the crystal ponies themselves, visually it's gorgeous, but personally, I feel like living here would get a bit tiring. Every surface reflects light and every building sparkles, and it just feels like your eyes would never get a break. So aesthetics are going to get a 4 out of 6. Safety, however, is where things go a bit downhill. Yeah, during the show it's stable because the Crystal Heart is working, but the Empire has a questionable track record. There's the whole vanished for 1,000 years situation, plus Sombra constantly trying to reclaim it. Even if things are mostly fine right now, you can never totally trust that they'll stay fine. So safety gets a 2 out of 6. Amenities are decent but not amazing. There's a marketplace and some shops, and the stadium of course, but compared to a place like Ponyville or Manhattan, it's sparse. Also, it's extremely far from the rest of Equestria. If you need anything specialised, you're stuck travelling through the frozen north on the 1 train line. Amenities get a 3 out of 6. Overall, that puts the Crystal Empire in the C tier. Appaloosa time. For aesthetics and feeling, Appaloosa has the classic dusty frontier vibe. Wooden houses, desert surroundings, tumbleweeds probably rolling past at all times. It definitely has charm, but it also looks like there's not a whole lot to do. It feels warm, friendly and community focused, but also empty and very, very hot. So aesthetics get a 2 out of 6. Cute, but minimalistic, and also I'm personally not the biggest fan of that old western kind of style. Safety is mixed. Good news, villains don't care enough about Appaloosa to ever attack it. Bad news, it's in the middle of the desert next to buffalo stampedes, and heat stroke would definitely be a risk here. There's also the occasional conflict between the settlers and the buffalo tribe, although we did see them reconcile in season 1, who knows what could happen later, so that might not be lethal danger, but it's not perfectly safe, so safety gets a 3 out of 6. Amenities are a bit rough. Appaloosa basically has a saloon, a general store, and a few other small shops. There's no major shops or fancy places, which you wouldn't expect, but that's what we're ranking here. Although there is a train line, so you can commute. Living here means accepting that you're going to travel for basically anything as well, so amenities are going to get a 2 out of 6. And that lands Appaloosa in the D tier. Now, Cloudsdale. This one's a little weird, since for any non-Pegasi, Cloudsdale is completely inaccessible, so we have to judge it from the point of view of a Pegasus, negating risks such as falling off. Starting with aesthetics, Cloudsdale is hands down one of the coolest and most visually impressive locations in the entire show, at least for me. A floating city made of clouds, with rainbow rivers and cloud architecture. The whole feeling is magical. It just looks, like, incredible. A perfect 6 out of 6 for me. Despite being a floating city in clouds, Cloudsdale is surprisingly safe, mainly due to its only inhabitants not being able to fall off, as I mentioned before. Villains barely ever attack Cloudsdale, partially because it's high in the sky, but also because its location isn't fixed, it's always moving. I think I'd have to give it a 6 out of 6 for safety as well. As long as you have the ability to walk on clouds, nothing's getting you up in Cloudsdale. Amenities are actually really strong as well. Cloudsdale has shops, homes and stadiums, training grounds, factories and tons of Pegasus specific infrastructure. The only downside being, it's all designed for Pegasi. Earth ponies and unicorns simply can't live here. But for its intended population, it's extremely well set up. Amenities are going to get a 5 out of 6. Cloudsdale easily averages into the S tier. Credible aesthetics carry it though. Again, subjective, I know I'm glazing it a bit. Next up, the Everfree Forest. Aesthetics and feeling, it's spooky, mysterious, and visually interesting, but also the least livable place in all of Equestria. So aesthetics get a 1 out of 6. Safety is very obvious, 0 out of 6. Timberwolves, cockatrices, poison joke, and basically every dangerous creature in Equestria. Yeah. Even Zecora living here feels like she's doing hardcore survival every day. Amenities, I mean, you got Zecora's hut with a cauldron, that's it. 0 out of 6 as well. Expectedly, the Everfree Forest is F tier. Las Pegasus is next. Equestria's Las Vegas, basically. Aesthetics and feeling, it's bright, flashy and fun, but also incredibly overwhelming. It's the place you go to lose money, not live. So aesthetics get a 3 out of 6. Now, for safety, no big villain attacks. The bigger risks are scams or emotional damage from bad gambling decisions. It, like Cloudsdale, is in the sky. However, unlike Cloudsdale, it's not limited to Pegasi, meaning the risk of falling off is present. So I'm going to give safety a 4 out of 6. Amenities though? Absolutely amazing. Resorts, shops, restaurants, theaters, rides. It's literally built for entertainment. If you want constant stimulation, this is the place. Amenities get a 6 out of 6. That puts Las Pegasus in a strong B tier. Finally, Rainbow Falls. Aesthetics and feeling, Rainbow Falls is beautiful. Rainbow waterfalls, as the name suggests. Very scenic, but it also feels empty. Like the whole place only exists during certain events, because we do only see it during one certain event. There are a very sparse amount of buildings and a very sparse amount of residents, so aesthetics are going to get a 4 out of 6. Safety, it's calm and peaceful, pretty high up, so you're probably quite safe in Rainbow Falls, so it's going to get a safety at 5 out of 6. And amenities, almost none that we see. It's basically just a seasonal marketplace with not much else. So amenities are going to get a 1 out of 6. That lands Rainbow Falls in the C tier. Here's the final rankings for each location. Ponyville, A tier. Canterlot, B tier. Manhattan, B tier. The Crystal Empire, C tier. Appaloosa, D tier. Cloudsdale, S tier. Everfree Forest, F tier. Las Pegasus, B tier. And Rainbow Falls, C tier. I'm sure you guys will have different opinions on where you think the best place is to live in Equestria, so please share them if you want in the comments. And that's going to be it for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed. Naturally, as I've said plenty of times, these are all subjective, and I also may not have included a location you consider main. I mean, I wouldn't consider somewhere like Rainbow Falls a true main location, but it is a unique location that I thought was worth including. But having said that, there are probably plenty of other small places like that where the same logic applies. If you did enjoy this video, please leave it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're so close to 10k and I really want to see if we can get there before the new year. If you want to support the channel even more, you could become a channel member. Thanks to the Red Ravioli, Creative Zone and MyFumi for being monotonal members. And with that, till next week, thanks for watching, I've been Monodash and I'll see you sometime soon.